Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're heading to Ghana, and we've got this really cool article from accra-ghana.com all about tourism. But, we're not just going to skim the surface here. We're going deeper. This is for those of you who are already kind of hooked on the idea of Ghana and want to go beyond the typical tourist stuff.
Sounds good.
So I got to ask, what was it about this article that really caught your eye?
Honestly, it's the history. Ghana wasn't just one big kingdom, There were all these different empires, each one leaving their mark on the country. The article doesn't get too deep into that, but to me, that's where you got to start if you really want to understand what makes Ghana so unique.
That's such a good point. I'll admit, when I think of Ghana, I immediately picture those castles, Cape Coast and Elmina. They're UNESCO World Heritage Sites now, right?
Yeah,
Powerful reminders of the slave trade.
absolutely. And it's not just the buildings themselves, it's the weight of history they carry, The stories of suffering and resilience. It's an experience that stays with you.
Yeah. It's heavy stuff, a real reminder that you can't understand a country's present without understanding its past, no matter how tough it is to face.
Exactly.
Speaking of history, the article also talks about Ghana's fight for independence. What figures or events should people know about before they visit places like Independence Square in Accra?
Well, you can't talk about Ghana's independence without talking about Kwame Nkrumah. He was their first president, and man, what a leader. A real visionary. Visiting his mausoleum is like stepping back in time, powerful architecture and symbolism, all tied to that era.
Amazing how one person can have such a lasting impact. Now, speaking of impact, there's the Ashanti Kingdom in Kumasi. I'm really curious about the Asantehene, What kind of influence do they have in modern Ghana?
It's complicated. They're not a political figure in the traditional sense, but they hold enormous cultural and spiritual authority. The Asantehene is seen as a protector of Ashanti traditions, a symbol of their unity and continuity. And even today, what they say can really shape public opinion.
So even in a modern Ghana, the old ways still resonate. And it seems like those traditions are really alive in the cultural scene too. The article mentions tons of festivals. What's it actually like to experience this of those?
Imagine like a explosion of color, bright kente cloth, intricate costumes, drumming that just gets into your soul, and everyone dancing. Ghanaian festivals are a sensory overload in the best possible way, a time for communities to get together and celebrate their heritage. And each festival has its own special meaning, with rituals and customs passed down for generations.
Makes you wonder, are there any that really stand out, like a must-see event?
Homowo is incredible, celebrated by the Ga people. It's a harvest festival, but it's more than that. There's spiritual stuff mixed with massive street parties. You see traditional drumming and dancing, but also people carrying offerings to the sea, thanking the gods for a good harvest.
Wow, sounds like an amazing blend of spirituality and celebration.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. The article makes it clear that Ghana isn't just history and culture, it's also a nature lover's paradise. Oh, absolutely. The biodiversity is remarkable. You have everything from rainforests to savannas, incredible landscapes.
Like Mole National Park.
Exactly. It's the largest park in Ghana, an amazing wildlife experience. You've got elephants, antelopes.
What about other animals? Any special encounters people should look out for?
Well, keep an eye out for the white-collared mangabe monkey. It's pretty rare and only found in this region. And picture this. You're at Mole National Park, right? The sun's setting, and suddenly hundreds of bats come streaming out of the park's caves. Absolutely incredible.
Okay, that's definitely going on my list. But Mole isn't the only natural wonder, right? What about that canopy walkway in Kakum National Park?
Whoa, yeah. Imagine walking through the treetops 30 meters above the ground. You get a completely different view of the rainforest. You might see forest elephants or hear all sorts of exotic birds hiding in the leaves. It's like stepping into a different world up there.
Speaking of birds, is Kakum good for serious bird watchers?
Oh, absolutely. Over 300 bird species have been recorded there. You're bound to spot something cool. And even if you're not a hardcore birder, it's just incredible to be surrounded by all those sounds, the whole rainforest symphony.
So something for everyone. Okay, I can't imagine talking about Ghana without mentioning the coast. The article highlights all these different beaches, but what are the key differences between them?
We have everything, from lively spots like Labadi Beach in Accra, known for its energy and great street food, to more chilled out places like Busua Beach. It's a surfer's paradise, super laid back.
And the article mentioned Edafo specifically. What makes that place unique?
Edafo is where the Volta River meets the Atlantic. That creates a really unique ecosystem, so you get tons of birds, and there are opportunities for all kinds of water sports. Plus, it's just a serene place, you know? It has this quiet beauty that's different from the busier beaches.
Sounds like a nice balance of adventure and relaxation. But for those who want more of a thrill, what other adventure tourism options does Ghana have?
If you're up for a challenge, you gotta try hiking in the Akwapim Togo Ranges. You can trek through forests, find hidden waterfalls, and the views from mountains like Adaklu are just breathtaking.
I remember the article mentioned a paragliding festival too. What's that like?
The Kwahu Paragliding Festival is wild. Every Easter, people from all over come to the Kwahu Plateau and just launch themselves into the sky. You get to see Ghana from a whole different perspective, soaring above everything.
Sounds unforgettable. And what about surfing? Does Ghana live up to the hype?
Oh yeah, places like Kokerbite and Busua beaches have consistent waves, perfect for all levels, beginners to pros. They even have surf schools, so you can learn the ropes if you've never tried it.
Wow, Ghana really does seem to have it all, from adrenaline rushes to chilled beach vibes. Before we jump into specific cities, are there any cultural things we should know about, before we explore those urban areas?
One thing that comes to mind is the chop bar culture. These are casual spots you find all over Ghana, and they offer a real taste of authentic food, all at super affordable prices. It's a great way to experience local cuisine and connect with people in a laid-back setting.
So it's not just about the food, it's about the experience itself. Love
Yeah.
it. Now let's dive into the cities. The article talks about Accra, Kumasi, and Tamale. What are the main differences between those urban adventures?
Okay, so Accra is the capital, bustling with energy. It's a mix of modern and traditional. You have art galleries like the Nabuk Foundation, showcasing modern art, alongside historical landmarks like the National Museum. And the nightlife in areas like Osu and Labone is electric.
So Accra is the place to be if you want to feel that pulse of a modern African city. What about Kumasi?
Kumasi is the heart of the Ashanti region, steeped in history. You absolutely have to check out the Kajetia Market, one of the biggest open-air markets in West Africa. It's a sensory overload, textiles, crafts, foods, spices, everything you can imagine. You could wander those alleys for hours.
It's like stepping right into the heart of Ghana, soaking it all in. Now, what about Tamale? What kind of experience does it offer?
Kamali often gets overlooked, but it's a gateway to the north, a region with its own distinct culture. It's a great jumping-off point to explore the mosques in Larabonga and, of course, the incredible landscapes of Mole National Park.
So a mix of culture and natural beauty. Speaking of exploring, I'm always excited to try new food. Tell me about Ghanaian cuisine. Is it as diverse as everything else we've talked about?
Ghanaian food is phenomenal. So much flavor, blending local ingredients with West African staples. You've got dishes like jollof rice, which is this delicious tomato-based rice dish with meat or fish. And then there's banku, a fermented dough made from corn and cassava, usually served with soups and stews.
The article highlighted kelebele and tilapia and banku. What makes them special?
Okay, so kilawil is like this street food everyone loves. Spicy fried plantains, seasoned with ginger, pepper, all these good things. Sweet, savory, and spicy, all at the same time. And tilapia and banku, that's a classic. Picture fresh grilled tilapia served with banku, that fermented corn dough, and this fiery hot pepper sauce. You gotta try it if you want that authentic Ghanaian taste.
Man, just describing it makes my mouth water. Ghana really does offer a feast for all the senses, from the history and culture to the nature and food. But what really makes a place special is the people. Tell me about Ghanaian hospitality.
Ghanaian hospitality is legendary. It's all about the Akwaba spirit, which means welcome in Twi. But it's more than a word, it's a way of life there. Ghanaians truly want you to feel at home, and you can feel it in every interaction. They're so warm and welcoming, always willing to help.
The article mentions their strong sense of community. How does that play out in everyday life?
You see it everywhere, in how people greet each other, how they share meals, how they look out for their neighbors. It's a culture where the well-being of the community is super important, and that extends to visitors too. Locals will go out of their way to help tourists, giving directions, telling stories, just being friendly.
Sounds like a place where you can really connect with people on a deeper level. Would you recommend homestays to get that experience?
100%. Homestays are amazing for immersing yourself in the culture. You're living with local families, sharing meals, learning about their customs and traditions firsthand. It's an experience you just can't get in a hotel.
Like stepping right into the heart of Ghanaian life. Okay, before we wrap up this part of our dive, any practical tips for those planning a trip to Ghana?
First off, the dry season. from November to April is the best time to go, especially for outdoor activities or visiting the national parks. The weather is perfect then.
Got it. What about currency and language?
The currency is the Ghanian cedi, GHS. You can exchange money easily at banks or exchange bureaus in the bigger cities. English is the official language, but you'll hear lots of local languages too. If you can learn a few phrases in Twi, which is the most common local language, it'll go a long way.
Great tip. Shows respect and can lead to some really cool interactions. One last thing. The article mentions safety briefly. Is Ghana generally considered safe for tourists?
Yeah, Ghana is known for being stable and having pretty low crime rates. Of course, like anywhere, it's always good to be cautious and aware of your surroundings, but overall, it's a safe and welcoming place for travelers.
That's good to hear. This has been an incredible journey so far. From those historic castles to the energy of the festivals and those amazing natural landscapes, it's clear that Ghana has a lot to offer.
Absolutely. It's a destination that stays with you. You leave with a new appreciation for the beauty, the resilience, and the warmth of the Ghanaian people. And with that, I think we're ready to dive a little deeper into some of the things that make Ghana's tourism scene so special.
You mentioned that Ghana is the kind of place that stays with you.
Yeah.
What is it about their tourism scene that creates that lasting impact?
Well, I think it's the focus on authenticity, on really immersing yourself in the culture. Travelers in Ghana aren't just watching from the sidelines. They're encouraged to get involved, connect with local communities, and experience traditions firsthand.
So it's not just about checking things off a list.
Right.
It's about really connecting with the place and the people.
Exactly. It's about having experiences that stay with you long after you've gone home. And I think that ties into this growing global interest in sustainable and responsible travel. People are more aware now of the impact their travels have on a place, both environmentally and socially.
Makes sense. The article touched on community-based tourism initiatives. Can you give some specific examples of how Ghana is promoting sustainable tourism?
Sure. There's a big push toward supporting locally owned businesses, especially when it comes to places to stay. So instead of going for those big international chain hotels, tourists are encouraged to choose guest houses or homestays, which directly benefits local families and communities.
So it's about making sure that the money from tourism actually reaches the people who live and work there, not just big corporations. Are there other examples that come to mind?
Definitely. There's a real focus on preserving cultural heritage, too. A lot of communities are actively working to revive traditional crafts, like kente weaving or pottery. And it's not just for tourists, it's about keeping these traditions alive for future generations.
Sounds like everyone wins. Tourists get to experience those authentic cultural expressions, and local communities benefit economically while also preserving their heritage.
Right.
Now, what about the environmental side of things? What's Ghana doing to minimize the negative impact of tourism on the environment?
Well, there's a growing awareness of eco-friendly practices. Many tour operators are making changes, like using more fuel-efficient vehicles, minimizing waste, and educating tourists about how to behave responsibly in natural areas.
So promoting a more mindful approach to travel.
Exactly.
Encouraging people to tread lightly and leave a minimal footprint. But even with those efforts, I imagine there are still challenges. The article didn't go into much detail about potential downsides of tourism. What are some things we should be aware of as responsible travelers?
One challenge is making sure that tourism benefits everyone, not just those directly involved in the industry. You want to avoid situations where tourism development ends up displacing local communities or creates economic inequalities.
Yeah, it's about spreading the benefits around fairly.
Right. Another challenge is managing the impact of tourism on cultural heritage. It's great to share traditions with visitors, but you also want to avoid exploiting those traditions just for profit.
So finding that balance between sharing and preserving, between welcoming tourists and protecting the integrity of cultural practices. Sounds like responsible tourism in Ghana requires a really nuanced approach.
It does. It's about moving beyond just surface-level engagement and really striving for a deeper, more respectful connection with the destination and its people. And I think that leads to a more enriching experience for everyone involved.
It's about shifting the focus from what can I get out of this trip to how can I be a part of a positive exchange? What advice would you give someone who's inspired to experience Ghana for themselves as they start planning their trip?
I'd say don't be afraid to go beyond the usual tourist spots. Explore those lesser-known areas, connect with local communities, and seek out experiences that give you a real feel for Ghanaian culture and daily life.
So embrace the unexpected, step outside your comfort zone, and be open to being surprised by what Ghana has to offer. Are there any specific resources or organizations you'd recommend for travelers who want to connect with local communities or support sustainable tourism initiatives?
Oh, tons. There are so many great organizations working to promote responsible tourism in Ghana. For example, the Ghana Tourism Federation is a fantastic resource for finding eco-friendly tour operators and community-based tourism projects. And there are also loads of NGOs working on different social and environmental initiatives that welcome volunteers or donations.
It sounds like there are so many opportunities to engage with Ghana in a truly meaningful way, to go beyond just consuming experiences and actually contribute something positive. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, is there a final thought-provoking question we can leave our listeners with? Something to ponder as they imagine themselves on their own Ghanaian adventure.
How about this? As Ghana continues to become more popular as a tourist destination, how do you see the future of tourism in the country? What role can travelers play in shaping that future in a way that benefits both visitors and the people who call Ghana home?
That's a great question. It makes you think beyond just planning a trip and consider the long-term impact of our choices, both as individual travelers and as a global community.
Yeah, it's a reminder that travel is a privilege, and with that privilege comes a responsibility to engage thoughtfully and respectfully with the places we visit and the people we meet along the way.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Travel isn't just about checking off destinations, it's about expanding our horizons, challenging our own assumptions,
Right.
and ultimately contributing to a more connected and understanding world.
Couldn't agree more. And I think Ghana, with its incredible hospitality, its rich culture, and its commitment to sustainable tourism, is a perfect example of how travel can be a force for good.
It's amazing to see a country embrace tourism, not just for the economic benefits, but as a way to share their unique story with the world, all while protecting their heritage for the future.
Exactly. And for those who are willing to go a little deeper, Ghana offers such a rewarding experience.
This deep dive has definitely left me wanting to experience Ghana for myself. Walk through those castles, get lost in the energy of those markets, connect with the warmth of the Ghanaian people.
And try that kelwell.
Oh, absolutely. That spicy plantain goodness is calling my name. But beyond all the specific attractions, it's the overall feeling that Ghana gives off that really gets me. That sense of warmth, of resilience, of a country that's proud of its past and excited for its future.
It's a place where tradition and modernity meet,
Yeah.
Where you have those ancient rituals happening alongside this bustling city life. It's like the echoes of history are woven into everything they do.
Sounds like the kind of place that feeds your soul as much as it entertains you.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful and inspiring deep dive. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us and for painting such a vivid picture of Ghana. I have a feeling our listeners are already adding it to their travel bucket lists.
Would be surprised.
To everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore the wonders of Ghana. Until next time, keep seeking out those experiences that broaden your horizons and connect you to the world around you.
Happy travels.
See you on our next deep dive.